Is it time for the Falcons to bench Kirk Cousins and turn to Michael Penix? We're going to discuss this and try to find an answer to this question on today's episode. Now, I'll open up by saying me as a sports fan is always one of the last people to say bench the starting quarterback. So I'm always resistant to that idea because I often think that it's not going to fix the issues, and there's a long list of reasons as to why going to the backup is not as good as you might think it is. But in this case here, I have to say, why should we have any reason to believe that things are going to start getting better for Kirk Cousins? If there was a time for Kirk Cousins to start getting back on track and shaking off that rough 2-game sprint between New Orleans and Denver, it would be at home, off a bye, against, sure, a good Chargers team, but a Chargers team on a short week, a Chargers team with a backup rookie corner in, and instead, it was anything but that. It only got worse. So if your argument for sticking with Kirk Cousins is he gives you the best chance of winning, that's usually what I say. But he is actually single-handedly sabotaging this team over their 3-game losing streak. He leads the NFL not only in interceptions, but also in fumbles. Ladies and gentlemen, we are right back to where we were last year with Desmond Ridder. It is a quarterback who, sure, there are some really good qualities and really good parts of his game to him, but none of that matters if he is scoring more points for the other team than his own team over the last 3 weeks. Literally, 1 pick six for the opposing team, 0 touchdowns for his own team from Kirk Cousins since week 10. Kirk Cousins is single-handedly sinking this team. And why should we believe Michael Penix could not come in there and start turning things around when I'm watching Bo Nix put up great numbers? Drake May do really well. Kaleb Williams, despite the disaster that is the Chicago Bears coaching staff, has put up strong numbers all year long. Every other rookie's doing pretty well right now. And Penix looked, I know, small sample size, but I thought pretty good when he went up against the Broncos at the end of the game in week 12 or 11, whatever that was. But this quote from Raheem Morris, who, by the way, is sticking by Kirk Cousins, surprise, surprise, this one kind of got under my skin. Here's what he said on Kirk Cousins. That guy's carried us. That guy's got us to the point where we are 6-6, first place in the division. Still got everything in front of us despite what happened today. It's up to us to bounce back and find a way to win football games, and there's no better man than 18 to do that for us. Raheem, you just said Kirk's the reason why we're 6-6. You say that like it's a good thing. Yes, he is the reason why you are 6-6. Because you are 6-3, and he has now cost you 3 games. You say that like it's a badge of honor. You say that like it's a selling point to stick with him. Kirk's the reason we're 6-6. Yeah, you should be much better than that. Kirk Cousins was someone I stood by and I was all in with to open up the year when he played well. And I cannot figure out what has happened to him over the last month. I mean, one of his interceptions was a complete noodle throw, no velocity on his passes. And then 2 of them were just horrible decisions, especially the one in the red zone where he just lobs into triple coverage. I mean, you're saying this like this is a selling point to stick by the guy. This should be the wake-up call for you. Not we are 6-6 because of Kirk Cousins. We are 6-6 because of Kirk Cousins. The tone dramatically changes things. But I am not satisfied with 6-6. This is the same team we have seen the last 3 years. Was it 3 or 4 years ago when Arthur Blank said, well, this is the year 1 of a 4-year turnaround? Has anything changed? This team is playing like, yet again, another 7-10 team. So, Kirk, I'm sorry. I like Kirk Cousins as a player. I liked him as a quarterback. He was not my number 1 choice over the offseason. It was Justin Fields, then Kirk Cousins. And I was happy to be proven wrong with the way he opened up the season in Kirktober and 6-3. And this team was rolling. And we were talking about maybe being the 2 seed. But now Atlanta's sitting here wondering if they're going to make the playoffs. And I don't like putting 1 loss or 2 losses on 1 player. But the last 2-3 games, Kirk Cousins has been a hindrance to this team's ability to win football games. Pick a starter for me, Michael Penix or Kirk Cousins. I've always been the last guy to sign up with benching the starting quarterback in any friend group text or anything like that. But at this point, I feel like Kirk Cousins is going to be the thing that holds this team back from getting to the playoffs, which sounded impossible a couple of weeks ago. But look at the updated NFC playoff picture. They are tied with the Buccaneers. They have the tiebreaker, but Atlanta has lost their big lead in the division, and they are lucky to be in a bad division. I mean, look at all four divisions. They are in the worst of the four. 6-6, but winning the NFC South should not be some calling card of, well, we're a really good team right now. We're still in the playoffs. You're lucky. If you were in any other division, if you were in the NFC North, you would not be in the playoffs. If you were in the NFC East, you would not be in the playoffs. If you were in the NFC West, you would not be in the playoffs. So lucky for you, you happen to be in the worst division while it's 6-6. Is that really the thing you want to put on your mantle? We were the best of the worst? That's all Atlanta has to hang their hat on at the moment. So as we look at the rest of the schedule here and try and optimistically look for a playoff path, it's not going to be any easier this upcoming Sunday. They go on the road, first of 2 road games against the Minnesota Vikings. Then they've got the Raiders on Monday Night Football. And sure, the last 4 games look like kind of, I wouldn't say gimmies, but easier than the last 3 games. Raiders, Giants, they are both tied for dead last in the NFL, 2 wins to their name. Commanders just picked up I wouldn't say impressive win, but a statement win over the Titans to kind of get back on track. And the Panthers, they're not an easy out by any means. They should have beat the Buccaneers. They took the lead with 30 seconds left. So I'm looking at the last 4 games, and I'm thinking, win, not going to be favored against DC, and not going to be as easy as we thought against Carolina to close the year. Meanwhile, look at the Bucs schedule. They've got pretty much the same-ish schedule, but just somewhat different order. I mean, they got the Raiders coming up next. Then they go to the Chargers, but, I mean, it was advantage Atlanta. They had the Chargers come to town, but they still lost to them. Then they go to Dallas for Sunday night. We'll see if it stays that way. But the Cowboys don't have much teeth to them anymore. Then they got the Panthers as well and the Saints to close out the year. So both schedules are pretty similar in terms of difficulty. So if we look at the playoff chances for both teams right now, Atlanta at one point was running away with it. Now they have a 61% chance to win the division. The reason why it's not any higher than that is because they have the tiebreaker over Tampa, but 58% chance to make the playoffs. As for the Buccaneers, 50% and 41%. But at this moment, it feels like those numbers should be flipped, right? All momentum is with Tampa. They've won 2 in a row on the road. Atlanta has lost 3 in a row. It is dark and gloomy right now in ATL. Before we talk more about Michael Penix and this entire subject in more detail, quick shout out to our sponsor today, and that is Game Time. Game Time has an awesome feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One thing I love about Game Time is their all-in pricing option. When you toggle this feature, it'll show you the total upfront cost. That way when you get to checkout, there are no surprise fees. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Now, I can think of a few political reasons as to why the Falcons should or won't start Michael Penix. One reason is the Falcons want to maybe drive up Kirk Cousins' value because right now his value is at an all-time low. 4 interceptions was tied for a career worst for him going back to 2014. So if you want to get something in a trade for him, which I don't think is very likely they trade him after the season, you got to play him out and see if he can drive up his value just a little bit. But like I said, a trade to me isn't super duper likely. You take on $37.5 million dead cap hit with only $2.5 million in cap savings. Now, Atlanta has done this before when they moved Matt Ryan to Indy, but that's when they accepted we are going into a rebuild. Are they about to re-accept going into a rebuild? Because I don't know many teams that take on nearly a $40 million dead cap hit and go, and we're still going to be competitive this year. That really hamstrings your ability to do so and spend in free agency. So that's one political reason, right? You want to drive up his trade value. Another one is it's a horrible reflection on Terry Fontenot. I think Fontenot and Raheem Morris are two in the same, 2 and 1. Like they operate as one unit and they're not detached from each other. And if Terry Fontenot trades a guy that he just gave nearly about $100 million guaranteed to, ignore the 180. All I care about is the guaranteed money, and that's all Arthur Blank cares about is he paid Kirk Cousins $100 million for 1 year of service. I mean, all eyes are always going to go to Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson's recent contracts from, Cleveland and Denver as two of the worst contracts in NFL history. Lucky for Fontenot, this one happens in the same time era, so it's going to get kind of forgotten. But if they move on from Kirk after 1 year, that's the greatest job in the world. Be a quarterback for one season, get $100 million guaranteed. That's not going to look too good for Fontenot when he goes to meet with Arthur Blank. Also, I think it's a major risk for Fontenot and Raheem Morris because let's say they bench Kirk Cousins and they start Michael Penix, and Michael Penix doesn't play very well. Oh, could you imagine going to meet with your boss and you're like, so plan A was a failure. We benched Kirk Cousins. And then we used our first-round draft pick on the quarterback of the future. And sure, it's only 5 games, so we're not going to make some great proclamation. But if those 5 games don't go well, what are you going to hang your hat on? Like, what are you going to say that we have a reason to believe that we're going to turn things around at the quarterback position and we're still going to be a competitive group? No, Terry Fontenot's going to get fired. How many quarterbacks will he have run through? I've also kind of wondered this. Does Fontenot have a large role in the quarterback decision? Because it feels like Arthur Smith and Raheem Morris were both the drivers at the team's quarterback position. And as a GM, you'd think you'd have a much larger say in it. So maybe I'm way off base here, but if things go south after benching Cousins with Penix, I don't see how Fontenot has a job after this year. Those are 2 big swing and misses if those things happen. Before we get on to the rest of today's episode, I was looking over the subscriber numbers from last December to this December, and we're on a good track already, despite it only being 2 days, to pass our December of 2023 subscribers. So if you are looking for a go-to Falcons YouTube channel, I invite you to subscribe down below. Now let's talk a little bit about Penix as a player, because I feel like we're doing all this talking about him without really talking about him as the quarterback. And he had 2 phenomenal years at Washington. If you go back to the pre-draft process, my quarterbacks rankings went as followed. Kaleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy. And Penix, I think, is a very, very good quarterback, and we saw that in, sure, a very small glimpse of it, but those 2 throws he had, and I know just 2 throws, but, man, they were 2 impressive throws against the Broncos last time out. I mean, I like Penix as a passer, and I'm thinking about how this offense is constructed well around him. Like, look at the receivers. I see speed, I see speed, I see speed. And when I see a lot of fast receivers, and I see a quarterback with a rocket arm, 1 + 1 does not equal 2 there. 1 + 1 equals 6, because that's a lot of touchdowns with Darnell Mooney running down the field and Penix with the arm strength to get him the football. And we saw moments of that on Sunday where Cousins could not deliver some of the deep throws to like Drake London, for example. The only thing that this team is not well built around for Penix is right tackle, because Kaleb McGary, like him or hate him, is a good run blocking tackle. And that's usually what your right tackle does for you. Your left tackle protects the blind side. Your right tackle helps out in the run game. Fortunately, your right tackle for a lefty quarterback needs to be the blind side protector. And McGary has not been the best pass protecting tackle in football. So in that regard, you're not setting yourself up great, but I don't think that should be the thing that ultimately weighs in as the deciding factor. If you're having that conversation, I don't think the final straw should be, yeah, but McGary's not a great pass protector, and Penix is a lefty. You got me there. We're going to stop the conversation right then and there. Now, I think it's important to kind of weigh in for the future if we're talking about giving McGary a new contract soon. But for this season alone, that should not be the deciding factor, deciding clause in it all. Before we sign off, I just want to show some love to the Dirty Birds Club. Thank you guys so much for sticking by us through some tough Sundays as of late. Hopefully things start to turn around. So make sure to tune in for the remaining watch parties of the season. Appreciate you guys always sticking it right here at Falcons Today. If you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure to do so. It's completely free, so you're going to get the best and entertaining Falcons content on YouTube.